Daily Trust News Center. This is the News Hour.
Tonight on News Hour, survivors of Kwara boat mishap narrate harrowing experience. President Tinubu appoints pioneer EFCC chair, 7 other special advisors. National Bureau of Statistics says that Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 22.4% in May. On the foreign scene, Sudan war death toll surges past 2,000 as fighting enters third month. Hello and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for joining. And now the news in details. Survivors and family members of victims of boat mishap in Patigi local government area of Kwara State, where over 100 people died, have been recounting experiences on how they survived the accident. Kwara State Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, while on sympathy visits to the leaders of the community affected, promises to take measures to avert future occurrence. The report.
Patigi town is nearly 6 hours journey away from Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, largely because of bad roads. About 4 villages, namely Pada, Ibu, Zanka, and Sampi, are affected, with all of them losing 108 people to the accident. The survivor narrates what happened and how he escaped.
Just when both cars break down, then God had just helped me. I heard there's one tree there. Just hold the tree and climb the tree. So I'm there. Then God just helped me. So I'm climb the tree. Just fall down. Then God just fall inside the water. And all the people died inside.
This village head was full of sadness over the huge loss.
The number of the people that are affected are about 108. We have about 200 inside the same local canoe. And unfortunately, the canoe broke into 2. And before they now link up themselves to the river banks, the whole thing sinked. So the male ones among them were able to fly and swim out of the water, while the female ones and the children among them. The point is that it's just that it's like the canoe is overloaded and it broke into 2. But I think there's an access road. They shouldn't apply through the river. It's just because there's no road network at all around the area.
The Kwara State Governor, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, and some politicians came here to commiserate with the families of the victims. Accompanied by the Etsu, Patigi, Ibrahim Umar, the governor says government will take measures to forestall future occurrence.
Very sad incident. We're here to commiserate with the people, the traditional council of His Royal Highness. We're deeply saddened at the event. Measures will be taking place. We'll be having discussions with NEWA to encourage them on enforcement of safety codes. And, we also would be sending a team to Lagos State to see how the Lagos State laws work alongside that of the federal government to reduce conflicts and overlapping of responsibilities. In that effect, we're basically saying we'll be looking at drafting our own laws to enforce safety on the waterways.
The families of the victims call on federal government to find permanent solution by dredging the river Niger and construction of bridges that will connect the villages.
President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 8 special advisors. The announcement was contained in a statement released on Thursday by Director Information State House Abiodun Oladunjoye. Pioneer EFCC Chairman Nuhu Ribadu is appointed Special Advisor Security. Others appointed are Dele Alake, Special Advisor Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Ya'u Darazo, Special Advisor, Political and Intergovernmental Affairs, Wale Edu, Special Advisor, Monetary Policies, and Olu Fehenye, Special Advisor, Energy. Zakios Adedeji is appointed Special Advisor, Revenue, John Ugochukwu Wajumogu, Special Advisor, Industry, Trade and Investment, and Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, Special Advisor, Health. The suspension of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, by President Bola Tinubu is generating mixed feelings, as some people viewed the decision as counterproductive in the fight against corruption. Some anti-corruption crusaders say that while it is within the right of the president to institute a probe against the suspended EFCC chairman, the action could also undermine public confidence in the war against corruption. Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Like his predecessors in office, Abdurrashid Bawa, the fifth in the series of chairmen of the anti-graft body, has come under executive hammer over allegation of abuse of office.
Anybody who is appointed to the EFCC would have to know that apart from fighting to keep his seat, he's also fighting against those people whose interest he goes against.
The fundamental question that comes in terms of reaction now would then be, what is the process? How do you carry on a process like that of fact-finding in a way that does not denigrate the powers of the Commission?
It has become a tradition for every president to appoint whoever he is comfortable with to head the EFCC, a powerful government agency charged with the responsibility of fighting against corruption in Nigeria. This, according to anti-corruption crusaders, weakens the agency's capacity, erodes public confidence, in addition to making mockery of genuine interest to tackle the monster.
Appointments and the composition of EFCC and the experience and the functions it had has been politicized. And you see that even from the first EFCC boss we've had, it was to a large extent to go after perceived political opponents.
And that is not healthy, especially even from the perspective of public confidence. Because if you talk about the anti-corruption process, it is about state and society.
From the EFCC's pioneer chairman Nuhu Ribadu to Farida Waziri, Ibrahim Lamurde, Ibrahim Magu, and now Abdurrashid Bawa, the story remains the same, as they were removed unceremoniously over similar allegations, accompanied with endless probes whose outcome have never been made public.
It is not just about Bawa. This has become a pattern, and we cannot, we can make no mistake about the fact that this is not good for the anti-corruption crusade. I'm talking about the politically exposed persons who may be within or outside government.
And I believe there are salient issues that have not come to light regarding why this is so. But we can only speculate that, there must be one or two things that is in the know of the authorities, which we do not know.
Though Nigeria continues to grapple with deepening and pervasive corruption in both public and private sectors, which undermines the nation's economic growth and development, anti-corruption crusaders believe a holistic review of the anti-graft agency to make it independent and result-oriented is desirable. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court Abuja on Thursday suspended the trial of former Minister of Aviation Stella Odua over alleged 7.9 billion fraud charges. Odua's arraignment was suspended by Justice Eko over alleged threat to his life by yet-to-be-identified persons. The judge, during proceedings, brought out a publication by a corporate organization wherein his life was severely threatened over his involvement in the trial, urging the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to fish out the culprits behind the corporate body and bring them before the court. He also ordered the Deputy Chief Registrar of the court in charge of litigation to liaise with the Corporate Affairs Commission to obtain the identities of promoters of the offending organization with a view to arresting them. Justice Eko then set July 17 date for report of the CAC to unravel the owners of the organization and the order issued to the EFCC to fish out the culprits. Zamfara State High Court has ordered the Police, State Security Services and Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps to produce within 48 hours all vehicles and property they have removed from the residence of former Governor Bello Matawalle on June 9. The presiding judge, Justice Aminu Baffa Aliyu, also ordered the security agencies to make a comprehensive inventory of all vehicles and personal properties taken from the residence and domicile same within the court premises. The court also orders them to stay action pending final determination of the case. The State Attorney General is joined as respondent in the suit. The case is adjourned to June 28. Nigeria has officially floated her local currency, the Naira. The move is seen as a game changer in the management of foreign exchange transactions. Now, the report by Yusuf Akogu highlights the implications on economy and local currency traders, popularly known as Bureau de Change operators. The report.
After years of managing and defending exchange rates, the Central Bank of Nigeria finally allows Naira to compete in an open market with other major currencies. The decision followed President Bola Tinubu's pronouncement of his government's plan to unify multiple exchange rate windows, which were said to have negative effects on the economy.
It will cut down on a lot of problems, a lot of economic issues, a lot of unnecessary gains and benefit. Because what happens is that there's one exchange rate in the central bank, and some people go through the back door to go and get dollar at very expensive, very cheap amounts, and then they bring it back into the system around trip, fueling the exchange rate gap. You also notice that some banks do it also, fueling round tripping and encouraging inconsistencies in the economy, disparity in the exchange rate. It should not be so.
For these Nigerians, President Bola Tinubu has addressed the major parts of Nigeria's economic problem. They describe exchange rate unification as a game changer.
I am foreseeing stability in the near future, and by near future I mean any time from now. And I believe our currency, the Naira, would appreciate.
It will help the general economy to have a central structure, and in fact, it will reduce corruption.
Let our Naira get value as usual before. When Shagari was in the seat, Naira was a big, because dollar was that time 25 kobo per dollar. We want our Naira to get weight right now.
For Bureau de Change operators, their position is clear. The policy will eliminate corruption in the system. And contrary to speculation that they will be out of business, BDC operators appreciate the proactiveness of the new government in FX management.
First and foremost, you knew you have one rate in Nigeria. And the same thing goes to the customer as well. That is the end users. They know there is one single rate for dollars in Nigeria. That is one. And that is a very important message to all of us. So there is no way you could go behind the mask and buy at 200, 300 naira cheaper than me. Honestly, kudos to them. So we, Bureau de Change, we are waiting for them, because I know they will engage everybody.
Good as the policy may appear, Nigerians are still watching to see the impact the reform of the monetary policy will have on the larger economy. Yusuf Akogu, Trust Television News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's inflation rate in May 2023 has risen to 22.41% from 22.22% recorded in the previous month, representing the fifth consecutive increase in the headline inflation rate. This is according to the recent Consumer Price Index report released by the National Bureau of Statistics. The inflation rate in Nigeria rose for the fifth time in a row in May, after the rate declined to 21.34% in May 2022. Inflation continues to rage at an over 17-year high despite contractionary monetary policies by the Central Bank of Nigeria. On a month-on-month basis, the headline inflation rate in May was 1.94%, which was 0.03% higher than the rate recorded in April. Food and non-alcoholic beverages contributed the most to the rise in the inflationary pressure, followed by housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuel, and clothing and footwear. Meanwhile, the inflation is expected to continue its upward trend through the year following the announcement of the removal of petrol subsidies and the adjustment of the forex rate at the official market. President Bola Tinubu has charged the National Economic Council to support his administration in transforming the economic fortunes of the country. The president gave the charge when he inaugurated the council headed by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the chamber of the Aso Rock Presidential Villa in Abuja. The inauguration comes a week after he directed NEC to come up with interventions to mitigate the effects of the petroleum subsidy removal. The report.
President Tinubu says the task of growing the nation's economy is quite enormous, adding that there is no excuse for failure.
The NEC meeting has over the years been very constructive and productive, and key outcomes, resolutions and recommendations are translated into brilliant government policies. It is also evident that the task of growing our economy is quite enormous. But you and I ask for it, we campaign for it, we even dance for it, we beg for it. So we have no reason to complain.
The president restated his administration's commitment to delivering on its promises to Nigerians.
To be impartial, to govern according to the Constitution and the rule of law, to defend the nation from terror and all forms of criminality, to promote economic growth and development through job creation, food security, and an end to poverty, to prominently feature women and youth in all our activities, and to take proactive steps such as championing a credit culture to discourage corruption while strengthening the effectiveness and efficiency.
After the inauguration, the council went into a closed-door session. The NEC meets monthly and is mandated to advise the president concerning the economic affairs of the federation, and in particular on measures necessary for the coordination of the economic planning efforts or programs of the various governments of the federation. Members of the NEC comprises the 36 state governors and other co-opted government officials, and they are all in attendance.
Also, President Bola Tinubu, on Thursday received a former military head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar, at the presidential villa in Abuja. The former head of state came barely 2 days after the visit of former President Goodluck Jonathan to brief the president on developments in Mali. There is no official information on the mission of his visit, but General Abubakar has played a stabilizing role in the run-up to the 2023 general elections as chairman of the National Peace Committee. His committee ensured that all major candidates in the February 25 presidential election signed a peace accord to douse tension during and after the polls.
Let's always give peace a chance. It's absolutely necessary, because if there is no peace, there is no country. And Nigeria, there is enough for everybody. So let us try to be each other's keeper, and also put our own hands on deck to move the country forward. Well, you know, this subsidy issue has been on and off and so on. But Mr. President has taken a decision to remove it, and I hope we will all see how to help him to make sure that it succeeds.
And on security matters, terrorists have attacked several farming communities in Katsina, killing 3 people, abducting over 12 residents, including women and children. In one of the communities, the bandits killed one Alhaji Ado, while at Ungwar Nakwari, residents say that the bandits killed 2 others and abducted 1 person, wounding several others. The bandits rustled over 12 cows, unspecified number of goats and sheep, all in Faskari local government area. 8 residents of Ndume were also abducted during bandits' attack. About 25 rice smugglers were attacked by the bandits at Maje village of Jibia local government area, where they carted away over 20 bags of rice, 30 cartons of spaghetti, and 3 motorcycles. Faskari, Ndume, and Jibia local governments have been battling with the rampaging bandits over the last 8 years. Security agencies in Katsina State are yet to comment on the recent attacks. Troops of the armed forces have in the last 2 weeks eliminated 42 bandits, terrorists, and other criminals in various operations in the north central and northwestern parts of the country. The Director, Defense Media Operations Major General Musa Damadami said this on Thursday in Abuja at the bi-weekly news conference on the operations of the armed forces. Damadami said that the troops apprehended 13 suspects in Irekpeni community along Lokoja Kaba Okene Road in Kogi. He said that the troops recovered a mobile phone containing numbers of 4 suspected ISWAP terrorists on the watch list of security agencies. He added that 7 kidnappers, informants, and collaborators were apprehended in Nasarawa Igon local government area of Nasarawa State following a tip-off. According to him, troops also arrested 86 suspected criminals and rescued 9 kidnapped civilians across the 2 zones within the period. In the northwest, the Madami said that the troops of Operation Hadarin Daji and other operations eliminated 38 bandits, apprehended 10, and rescued 24 kidnapped civilians. Several individuals suspected to be looters stealing rods and other building materials have been trapped under the rubble of the demolished Daula Hotel in Kano State. 1 person has been confirmed dead as 3 others were rescued alive while others are still missing. According to eyewitnesses, the incident happened when the looters were scouting for iron rods from the rubble of the demolished building. The Public Relations Officer, Kano State Fire Service, Saminu Yusuf, who visits the scene of the incident, said his team had so far rescued 3 persons alive. At the time of filing this report, 2 or more persons were said to be trapped in the demolished building. Meanwhile, men of the Fire Service, NEMA, Police, Kano State Urban Planning and Development Agency, among others, were seen at the scene trying to rescue others trapped in the building. Members of the House of Representatives on Thursday rejected a motion seeking to address incessant migration of Nigerian professionals to get permanent residencies on foreign countries. The member representing Ado Okpoku Obadigbo Federal Constituency of Benue State, Philip Agbese, moved a motion on the floor urging his colleagues to support and pass resolutions to curtail what he described as Japa syndrome. The report.
The growing statistics of young Nigerians leaving Nigeria and securing permanent residence in the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Canada portends a grave danger for the nation in many ways, from economic to intellectual and social aspects. Philip Agbese noted that the recent reports by African Polling Institute indicate that 69% of young people would ordinarily choose the option to relocate abroad if given the opportunity. He says there is a 40% increase in the number of young Nigerians leaving the nation compared to the number captured previously in 2019.
Lecturers, healthcare practitioners, doctors, nurses, trained manpower, all of whom were trained in Nigeria with Nigerian taxes and are emigrating at a time when their services are needed to build a strong and vibrant economy for this country. Disturbed that if this scenario continues with our able minds, brains, and skilled personnel living, Nigeria may fall into grave crisis in our critical sectors.
In opposing the motion, some lawmakers said the motion in contradiction of the constitutional rights of citizens to freely move in and out of the country.
Then go to section 35, talking about the personal liberty of an individual. This motion as it is, it looks nationalistic, but it contravenes the provisions of the Constitution. It's the liberty of a Nigerian, if he is qualified and he is normal, and he has all the grant rights of movement anywhere he wants.
We have identified, international communities have identified, these are the reasons why Nigerians are compelled to go outside the country. And what he is praying now is, let there be national summit, so that all these factors will be given priorities.
The lawmakers voted against the motion to urge the federal government to convene a national summit with key stakeholders to effectively address the Japa syndrome and declare a state of emergency on the syndrome.
So we put the question, those who are in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those who are against should say nay. No. The nays have it.
In another development, the Speaker announced 7 special House committees to run the affairs of the House pending the composition of House standing committees. The committees include the Committees on Internal Security, Media, Legislative Agenda, Welfare, Ethics and Privileges, amongst others. Chairmen were appointed to head these committees as they were charged to begin work immediately. The House has, however, adjourned plenary to Tuesday, 4th July.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at a compendium on identical twins and their common interest. Details and more after the break.
Dear residents of our beautiful capital city of Abuja, I know we all desire to have a world-class city with working infrastructure and clean streets. That is why the Federal Capital Territory Administration is investing a lot of resources and manpower to ensure prompt evacuation of refuse from all nooks and crannies of the city. Now, this can only be sustained if all residents play their part by promptly paying their waste collection bills. Encourage everyone around you to be patriotic and pay their bills. The task of keeping Abuja clean is for all of us. Remember, soup wey sweet, na money kill am. This message is from the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
There's a mountain in Billiri town that truly reflects a lost civilization. Discover the lost story of ancient humans and the existence of giants whose stories have long been forgotten.
They are giants, and because they are giants, it is possible that they did this work.
Could this be proof that giants lived long before now?
These columnar joints formed long before even human existence scientifically.
And did they leave a mark to show their existence?
It is beyond human beings' formation.
Don't miss out as we explore the mystery rock shrouded in tales of ancient lore and lost civilization.
Welcome back. You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Here's a look at the top stories. Survivors of Kwara boat mishap narrate harrowing experience. President Tinubu appoints pioneer EFCC chairman, 7 other special advisors. Now moving on, small-scale farmers in Nigeria are facing a challenge in the wake of the recent fuel subsidy removal. Jamil Mabai reports that farmers in Katsina are struggling with the cost of transportation, rising food prices and increased cost for agricultural supplies and labor.
Aliu Angawa has returned to his farm
with the hope of providing for his family and earning a profit. Unfortunately, due to the recent increase in bandit attacks in his area, he was forced to abandon his farm. He now works as a farm laborer instead of being a farm owner. To make matters worse, the recent hike in petrol prices has doubled the transportation cost he incurred last year, making it more challenging for him to sustain his farming activities. We pay 100 naira before, now we pay 200 naira for transportation. The food prices for our livestock has doubled compared to last year. Bandits recently raided his village and rustled 4 to 5 cows. But Aliu's cows were spared luckily. They came to our village and rustled 4 to 5 cows, and the lives were lost during the attack. The removal of fuel subsidy has caused a rise in food prices, particularly affecting small-scale farmers like Angawa, who are struggling with increased cost for agricultural supplies and labor.
Most of our agricultural inputs are transported through using vehicles that use petrol. The price of seeds, even labor. The workers that come to your farm and work for you, they will charge you higher because they have to pay transportation. If you are using tractor for harrowing and others, or if you are using, let's say, animals, they all increase the prices as from compared to what we witnessed last year.
Abubakar Madawaki used to buy 5 liters of petrol with just 1,000 naira, which could last for 3 days. Due to the increase in petrol prices, he buys less than 2 liters for the same amount. This has caused him concern, as the cost of cultivating his farm may exceed last year's expenses, with no guarantee of making a profit.
So therefore, the farmers more or less are paying for it. They buy at high price and sell at low price.
Experts suggest that government intervention is necessary to address the issue.
What we are experiencing currently is what is called food inflation. Even though the prices generally of goods and services is increasing in Nigeria, but in particular food items. For instance, maize. Now, a measure of maize is sold at around 1,000 naira, 900 for instance, 800 plus. And this maize is the last resort. If somebody don't eat maize, what else will he eat? So this is the last resort for the masses, and their price is now rising. So the government can come in through releasing its reserve, food reserve. So it can release the reserve so that the price will be tame and the masses can buy it at affordable price. And that is the whole essence of government, for it to ensure the welfare of people.
Jamil Mabai, Trust TV, Katsina.
Now, it is a common saying that water is life, as no living thing can survive without it. However, rural communities in Benue State are facing perennial water crisis in both dry and rainy seasons. Here's the report.
Food is in most cases surplus in rural settings in Benue State. However, the major challenge faced by the rural dwellers is access to hygienic water sources.
Water we are using is not good to use, but no any other one, we are just managing this one. So I want to talk with the government about this water. They should help us to make our good water, to make our things, do our things. That this water no good to bath, no good to wash, no good to cook. But we are just managing because there's no any water. So I want government to look on it to make us our borehole or any kind of water that good to us to use and do our things.
In many communities, villagers traverse kilometers and miles in search of water in the dry season. They also depend on downpour for water in the rainy season.
A lot of challenges measure water and the source of water. The major source of water, since we don't have a borehole and any other thing, the major source of water is this raining water. And through it, it is not good when people are using it or doing something on it, and maybe especially taking of it, maybe it can generate a disease. But we don't know. We are facing the challenges. If government, it is truly assisting or may they assist us on the issue of water.
For villagers who share proximity with the River Benue or other minor rivers, streams and ponds, the unprocessed water serve their daily needs. The River Benue source of water comes with a lot of dirt. It is unhygienic for home use. We plead for assistance. We have no working boreholes in most villages. The water sources have caused a lot of health challenges to our people. We vote for government to make life better for our people. Let government also turn attention to the villages. Most of the villagers said the poor performance of the local government tier resulted in the lack of basic amenities in the rural areas in Benue State, including water, which is a basic need.
Frivolous lawsuits are now punishable by heavy fines, as recent court pronouncements suggest. Abdurrahman Umar speaks to some legal practitioners in Abuja on fines slammed on lawyers for filing cases viewed as ridiculous and unnecessary. Here's the report.
A senior lawyer, an immediate past Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, was slammed with a fine of 10 million naira for what a federal high court calls a frivolous suit against former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. What this means to the legal profession, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Tanim Inua, says it amounts to abuse of court processes and obstruction of the cause of natural justice for lawyers to institute lawsuits deemed to be frivolous, vexatious, or unnecessary.
Unfortunately, we are taking the provision of the Constitution of fair hearing too far. We are taking it for granted. I was sometimes in England, one of the lawyers are telling me that if you file a matter, the judge will tell you, no, you don't have a case, withdraw it. But here, if a judge tells you that you don't have a case, withdraw it, you see that the petitions going to the NJC that the judge has taken into descended to the arena.
Folarin Aluko, an Abuja-based legal practitioner, said there is no justification for any legal practitioner who is a minister in the Temple of Justice to be involved in an act that could bring the legal profession to public ridicule.
It is unprofessional for a lawyer to take a case to undertake to file an action knowing fully well that action is frivolous or that there is not enough, the elements of that case are not sufficient or do not even exist.
Not only lawyers are susceptible to frivolous lawsuit, a fine of 40 million naira was also imposed on former presidential candidate by the Court of Appeal in Abuja for filing frivolous suit to stop the inauguration of President Bola Tinubu last month. Tunji Abayomi believes that such huge fine is meant to regulate the attitude of those involved in the legal practice in the country.
The courts will regulate the appetite of lawyers for mischief. That's the point I'm making. You understand what? Ultimately, in the process of imposing fine and disciplining them, they will begin to retreat from just taking any case.
The legal practitioners are unanimous that the fines imposed on frivolous lawsuit will only strengthen judicial system and guide lawyers on whether there is legal grounds to pursue a case or otherwise. Abdurrahman Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has ordered the sealing of 17 local government secretariats of Plateau State following the crisis that trailed the suspension of the elected chairman of the local government councils in the state. The State Commissioner of Police, Bartolomeo Onyeka, told newsmen in Jos that the sealing of the 17 local government secretariats is to douse the tension around the possible threat that supporters and local government chairmen are posing to critical infrastructure, lives and properties in the state. Ado Musa completes the report.
The closure of the secretariat is coming amid the crisis between the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress over the control of the local councils of the state, following the suspension of the chairman by Governor Caleb Mutfwang for alleged misappropriation of funds. The refusal by the suspended local council chairman to vacate their offices prevented the new appointed chairpersons to resume duties, a situation that nearly resulted in the breakdown of law on Wednesday. The State Commissioner of Police, however, explains why the IGP orders the closure of the secretariat.
To urge the people of Plateau State, the law-abiding ones, to go about their normal businesses as we are there to protect them. And the miscreants and criminally minded ones should stay off all these local government secretariats, because anyone caught will definitely face the wrath of the law. That is the message. So you people should help us to escalate it.
The commissioner further says the decision is not targeted at any person or political party.
The essence is to ensure that there is peace. Because presently in Plateau State, like some of you are very much aware, we have varying degrees of security challenges we are passing through. So this time is not the time for what is happening. Because the intelligence we received also has revealed that what is brewing up right now in Plateau, if we don't contain it, if we don't contend with it now, by the time it explodes, we will not be in a position to manage it.
The police boss, however, advised people to stay off the secretariat and remain law-abiding. Before the closure of the secretariat, there were reports of clashes between the supporters of the PDP and APC at the secretariat of some of the local councils where properties and valuables were destroyed. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Emir of Bichi, Nasiru Ado Bayero, has asked Nigerians to desist from any form of violence capable of threatening the nation's peace and unity. Speaking while receiving members of the Nigeria for Peace project, the Emir said that religious and ethnic tolerance are important factors for a sustainable economic growth. Trust TV's Idris Jibrin reports.
According to the Emir of Bichi, Nasir Ado Bayero, peace and unity must be sustained in order to add strength to religious and ethnic cooperation among all Nigerians, regardless of their political differences or economic status.
Duk ƙasar da take zaune ana rigima a cikinta akan addini da ƙabilanci.
Any nation that survives in religious or ethnic violence will never progress. This is why it's always important for people to vote those who will ensure their development. I therefore call on all Nigerians to stay away from religious and ethnic violence. The Nigeria for Peace project is an initiative of various civil society groups aimed at ensuring unity and reconciliation among various factions of the society by using traditional rulers as ambassadors of the project.
We feel that and we believe that it's only when there's unity in Nigeria that development can really take place. And it is our also belief that we understand that the whole African countries look on their own eyes on Nigeria, and they consider Nigeria as a country that gives them the guide. So for that reason, Nigeria needs to remain united, because if Nigeria should disintegrate, then definitely there's going to be a lot of problems, a lot of chaos. Like I used to say that no any country, any continent in the world that can accommodate the Africa, particularly when Nigeria is in crisis. The West African countries, none of them can really accommodate.
For these members of the Independent National Unity and Reconciliation Committee, their aim is to further ensure that Nigerians, especially those who felt dissatisfied with the outcome of the 2023 general elections, are reconciled.
Everything about discussion in Nigeria, we are not talking of one united Nigeria. Everybody is talking about either you are from the north, from the south, you are from the west, or you are an Igbo, you are a Yoruba, you are Igala, you are whatever. These are issues that we must address. That the first thing that must come to somebody's mind is, I am a Nigerian.
The organization per se have to conglomerate different people from different states, different religions, to make sure we achieve this very aim. And what is the aim? Unity, because unity is the strength any country or any society or any community can base on, because without the unity, there will be separation, and we don't want that to happen.
In the next coming days, the group intends to open up a dialogue with different sections of the society geared toward understanding their grievances for possible solution. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Similarly, in order to live in a world without violence, stakeholders have tasked government at all levels to collaborate with peace builders towards promoting a prosperous and thriving nation. Habibat Ajayi reports that peace builders are undergoing training to link resources and tackle issues affecting the society, working with the government.
The United Nations Institute of Peace trains peace builders across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria to engage and effect change, especially in troubled communities. Speaking at the event, Chris Kwaja, interim country director of USIP, advised the government to prioritize its commitment on management of diversities towards peace building.
We have 2 cohorts of the Nigerian network of facilitators. We've trained them with peace building skills specific to mediation and dialogue. They are able to facilitate dialogues. They are able to support communities. They are able to support groups across the country to come together to work collaboratively towards a peaceful society.
If you looked at how peace is achieved in most communities, you realize that it needs the collaboration of just not the government alone, but other organizations. So unless there's this synergy built on trust and sincerity, unless you have it, you find it very difficult to have the kind of peace that we have. So for you to have a peace in a community, you need a government that is sincere to drive it, to create the initiative. And then you find other people also coming in and then keying into the whole thing.
Meanwhile, government says it will use innovative approach in dealing with violence around the society.
It is time for us to take a second look and begin to reverse the gear and re-engage, a non-violent, non-combative approach on how we deal with our differences in the country. And we're going to be using more of getting an all stakeholders engagement, collaborative approach. We're going to be using issues around mediation, negotiation, and how communities need to engage themselves together.
Policymakers are advised to engage in consultations within and outside their domain before embarking on programs that could ignite violence. Habibat Ajayi, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Twins from all the 34 local government areas of Katsina State converged on the ancient city under the auspices of Katsina Twins to foster unity. Katsina Twins is an association aimed at bringing all twins of Katsina together for understanding, unity and togetherness among them in the state. Abdullahi Ahmadi reports.
It has been estimated that there are over 1.2 million twins cutting across all age groups in Katsina State. This meeting discusses problems, prospects, and way forward for twins in Katsina State with a view to providing solutions.
Most of the time, twins may have in the poor family, most of the time. In such family, there are some other twins that people, they don't have the power to take their responsibility. And Allah has blessed them with the twins. So how do we help those families? How do we help those people with less privilege? Let me quote it like this.
At the moment, Katsina Twins Group is planning a compendium that will provide relevant information about its members, which is expected to bring them together.
In our group, we have over 300 members. Even now, people are still coming off.
Anything, we are doing it together. Everywhere we are going, our school, our seats, we can share our problems and give us advice. We are not fighting.
I love him so much. But sometimes we fight a lot. Sometimes what I want is not what you want. But especially he is introvert. Yes, then and I'm extrovert. That's why we are fighting. He don't want talking and I will be.
Twins are blessings to every family. So whoever had twins in his house, just take that. It was just an exceptional blessing from the Almighty God. Our companionship between I and my twin partner, there is a patience between us and there is an understanding. Initially, when we started dating, our girlfriends used to get confused with identifying us.
The Katsina Twins Group, which is holding its general meeting for the first time since its establishment in 2022, is also planning to encourage revenue generation drive and contributions to support needy members. Many public commentators expressed confidence in the initiative, saying it will bring unity, understanding, and promote cohesion not only among twins but to the generality of the people. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
It's time for us to take a short breather. When we return, the news hour continues. Join us again. Welcome back. This is the News Hour on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at Business Update with Chiamaka Mwafo.
According to recent data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, 3 states in Nigeria experienced the highest inflation rates in May of 2023. Ondo, Kogi, and Rivers states recorded inflation rates of 25.84%. 25.70% and 25.02% respectively for all items from May 2022 to May 2023. On the other hand, Taraba at 19.55%, Sokoto with 19.56% and Plateau with 19.89% had the slowest rise in headline inflation on a year-on-year basis. Analyzing the month-to-month inflation rates, Osun, Ebonyi, and Taraba states witnessed the highest increases at 3.05%, 3.02%, and 2.81% respectively. Conversely, Ogun with 0.64%, Nasarawa at 0.89%, and Imo with 0.94% had the slowest rise in month-on-month inflation. The 10 states with the highest inflation rates overall were Ondo, Kogi, Rivers, Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Lagos, Anambra, Oyo, Delta, and Yobe State. Uganda has cut its budget deficit forecast for the 2023-2024 fiscal year and plans to increase total spending by Finance Minister Maje Kasaija in his budget speech on Thursday said the budget deficit will shrink to 3.5% in the next fiscal year, which starts next month from 5.1% in the current financial year. Next fiscal year spending is 10% higher than the previous period at 52.7 trillion shillings, which is equivalent to $14 billion. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has praised the country's response to the economic impact of the war in Ukraine and the tightening of global financial conditions, which included support to vulnerable households and a tightening of monetary policy to contain inflation. And finally, India's Export-Import Bank is planning to step up investments under a government-supported line of credit program to finance Indian companies looking to access fast-growing African markets. The bank's top officials said it's part of a move to expand trade ties. Amid rising competition from China, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is making efforts to strengthen ties with African nations via aid for infrastructure projects and private investments by Indian companies. Harshal Bangari, Managing Director of Export-Import Exim Bank of India, said Africa is becoming a big consuming continent and Indian companies have huge potential to find a market. The bank plans to raise $3.5 billion of funds in the current financial year to finance new projects. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Mwafo.
Now, on the foreign scene, Sudan's devastating war raged on into a third month on Thursday as the reported death toll topped 2,000 after a provincial governor was killed in the remote Darfur region. The army, headed by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has since April 15 fought the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, commanded by his former deputy Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. The International Organization for Migration says that the fighting has driven 2.2 million people from their homes, including 528,000 who have fled to neighboring countries. The death toll has risen above 2,000 according to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Projections latest figures, which cover fighting until June 9. In long-troubled West Darfur, the violence claimed the life of Governor Khamis Abdallah Abakar hours after he made remarks critical of the paramilitaries in a telephone interview with a Saudi TV channel. The United Nations said that compelling eyewitness accounts attribute his act to Arab militias and the RSF, while the Darfur Lawyers Association condemned the act of barbarism, brutality, and cruelty. Now, in sports news, Nigeria's National League have confirmed teams that will participate in the Super 8 playoffs. The clubs are EFCC FC, Katsina United, DMD FC, FC One Rocket, Abeokuta Stormers, Heartland FC, Sporting Lagos, and Kano Pillars. A venue for the NNL Super 8 playoffs is yet to be announced by the league body. The 8 teams qualified from the Southern and Northern Conference. 4 teams from the NNL Super 8 Championship playoff will be promoted to the Nigeria Premier League next season. Shoes worn by NBA legend Michael Jordan in the famous flu game of the 1997 NBA Finals were sold at auction for $1.38 million, Golding Memorabilia Marketplace announced on Thursday. The sneakers were part of a history for Jordan and the Bulls, who won 6 NBA titles in the 1990s. The Bulls and Utah were tied in the 1997 best of 7 NBA Finals at 2 wins each ahead of Game 5 when Jordan felt ill, feverish, and dehydrated due to a stomach virus but played for Chicago anyway. Jordan scored 38 points in 44 minutes and made the decisive three-pointer in the dying seconds for a 90-88 Bulls triumph, delivering the only Jazz home loss of the playoffs, and Chicago went on to capture the crown in 6 games, with Jordan taking the NBA Finals Most Valuable Player award. And that's it for the News Hour tonight. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.